Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? This time we're tackling wealth building, and what better source than the classic, The Richest Man in Babylon. We're going to explore the story of Arkad, who, believe it or not, started from very humble beginnings to become, well, the richest man in Babylon.
And the amazing thing is, even though this story is set in ancient Babylon, the principles Arkad used to build his wealth were still super relevant today. They're timeless, really.
Okay, so let's get into it. Arkad wasn't born into wealth, right? He started as a scribe. Can you imagine? Like someone glued to a computer all day, but instead of the screen, it's clay tablets.
Right, that just goes to show that his wealth wasn't some lucky break or inheritance. He built it through smart decisions, consistent habits.
So what was his secret? What set him apart?
One key thing Arkad did was save consistently. He made it a habit to save a portion of every single thing he earned, specifically 10%.
10%. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it might sound like a lot, but the book actually gives some cool insight into why that number is so important.
Really? Tell me more.
So, in ancient Babylon, 10% was considered a tithe to the gods, like a way of honoring the forces they believed brought prosperity. So when Arkad saved 10%, he wasn't just putting money aside, he was aligning himself with the principles of abundance.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. That's a really interesting perspective.
And there's another reason why that 10% is so important. It addresses that psychological barrier we often have with saving. A lot of people think, oh, I can only save a tiny bit. What difference does it make? But 10%, it's significant enough to see the impact, but not so overwhelming that it feels impossible.
It's about finding that sweet spot then, making a real contribution but still living your life.
Exactly. And this is where it gets even more interesting. Arkad didn't just hoard his savings. He understood the power of putting his money to work. He was a savvy investor.
So like the Warren Buffett of ancient Babylon.
You could say that. But before he invested even one shekel, he did his homework. He understood that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to finances.
So he didn't just jump into the first opportunity he saw. He took the time to really understand the risks, right?
Absolutely. He sought advice from experienced merchants, money lenders, people who'd already achieved success. He knew learning from them was invaluable.
Sounds like mentorship played a big role for him.
Definitely. And it's something that's often overlooked today. We're bombarded with information, but it's easy to get lost in all the noise and miss the importance of finding guidance from those who've already walked the path.
So true. There's a big difference between reading about investing and getting advice from someone who's actually been there, done that.
Exactly. Now let's talk about what Arkad actually invested in. He didn't have stocks and bonds like we do today, obviously, but he did have other options.
What kinds of things? What were the investment vehicles in ancient Babylon?
Well, real estate was big back then. Makes sense, right? Babylon was this booming city with marketplaces and palaces. Owning property there was a surefire way to build wealth.
And that principle still holds true today, doesn't it? Real estate is still considered a solid investment.
It is. Arkad also invested in businesses. He'd lend money to merchants, artisans, help them expand, and in return, he'd get a share of their profits.
Like an early venture capitalist, kind of.
Exactly. He was willing to take calculated risks on promising ventures, but always made sure he understood the business and the people involved before investing his hard-earned money.
This is all so fascinating, but let's be real. Saving 10%, investing wisely, it all sounds great. But is it really achievable for the average person today?
That's a really good question. And I think it's important to acknowledge that Arkad's story is kind of an ideal. He's meant to represent ultimate financial wisdom. But the principles, those are still relevant, even if we can't all reach the same level of wealth.
So it's more about adopting the mindset, the habits, rather than trying to replicate his exact results.
Exactly. And I think that's the real power of his story. It's not about becoming the richest person in Babylon. It's about taking control of your finances and building a solid foundation for your future.
I like that. It's about empowerment, making smart financial decisions no matter your income level.
Exactly. One thing that really stood out to me about Arkad's story was his perspective on debt.
Oh, interesting. What did he say about debt?
Well, in ancient Babylon, debt was viewed very differently than it is today. It was seen as a dangerous trap, something that could lead to servitude, even ruin.
So it wasn't as, casual as it is now with people racking up credit card debt without thinking twice.
Right. Arkad believed debt should be avoided at all costs. He saw it as a burden, something that could hold you back from your financial goals.
I get it. Even today, debt can be a huge source of stress.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another important principle from the book. ensuring a future income.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this.
So Arkad believed that true wealth wasn't just about having a ton of gold. It was about having a secure, sustainable income stream, one that would keep flowing even if you couldn't work anymore.
So like creating a safety net for yourself and your family.
Exactly. He encouraged people to invest in assets that would generate passive income, things like rental properties or businesses that could run without their constant involvement.
That's pretty forward-thinking for ancient Babylon.
It really is. And this principle is so relevant today. Job security isn't what it used to be. It's more important than ever to create multiple income streams, build a financial fortress,
So it's not just about earning a paycheck. It's about building a system that works for you, even when you're not working.
Precisely. And it all ties back to Arkad's emphasis on knowledge and mentorship. He believed that learning how to create those passive income streams was crucial for achieving true financial freedom.
It's all connected. Now, I'm curious, what do you think is the most important takeaway from Arkad's story?
That's a tough one. There are so many great lessons, but if I had to choose one, I'd say it's the importance of mindset.
Mindset, how so?
Well, throughout the book, Arkad stresses believing in your ability to build wealth, cultivating a positive, abundant mindset.
So it's not just the practical steps. It's about believing in yourself and your potential.
Exactly. He believed wealth was a state of mind, that those who believed in their ability to achieve it were much more likely to succeed.
That's a powerful message. And it's something we can all apply, no matter our financial situation.
Absolutely. Now, what stands out to you the most so far? What's resonating with you?
Well, one thing that struck me was Arkad's emphasis on learning and seeking knowledge. He didn't just rely on luck or intuition. He actively sought out mentors, experts to guide him.
I see that. It really speaks to the power of lifelong learning, especially when it comes to finance, which is always changing.
Absolutely. And it also got me thinking about how we often underestimate the power of small, consistent actions, like saving 10% each month. It might not seem like much at first, but over time...
It's the snowball effect. Small actions, repeated consistently, lead to big results.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that you don't need to make drastic changes to improve your finances. It's about those small, sustainable adjustments you can stick with.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I admire most about Arkad's approach. He wasn't about get-rich-quick schemes. He was all about building wealth slowly and steadily through consistent effort and smart decisions.
Playing the long game.
Precisely. And that's a lesson that's more relevant than ever today in our fast-paced world. It's a reminder to be patient, focus on the fundamentals, and trust in the power of time and compound growth.
We've covered a lot here.
Yeah.
Saving, investing, managing debt, finding fulfilling work, ensuring a future income, and the power of mindset. But I have a feeling there's more to uncover in Arkad's story.
Oh, definitely. There's so much wisdom packed in there. We've just scratched the surface.
Well, then I can't wait to dive even deeper and see what other insights we can glean from the richest man in Babylon.
Me neither. Let's continue our journey into the world of ancient finance and see what timeless lessons we can apply to our modern lives.
Let's do it. I'm excited to see where this deep dive takes us.
Me too. I have a feeling we're about to uncover some real gems. Hashtag TTS, the Deep Dive, episode 2025-0204, part 2 of 3. So before we got into all that, we were talking about how Arkad emphasized building a secure and sustainable income stream.
Yeah, the idea that real wealth isn't just about having a pile of gold, but about having reliable income, even if you're not actively working.
Right. And that leads us to another really interesting part of Arkad's approach to wealth, his view on work itself.
Okay, what did he have to say about work? I'm curious.
Well, Arkad doesn't just talk about making money. He talks about finding fulfillment in your work. He believed your labor should be a source of both income and satisfaction.
That's interesting. So it's not just about chasing the biggest paycheck, but finding work that uses your skills and, passions.
Exactly. Arkad believed that when you enjoy what you do, you're naturally going to be better at it, and that leads to more success, more prosperity.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you hate going to work every day, it's going to be hard to stay motivated, be productive.
All right. Absolutely. And I think this message really resonates today, with all the talk about burnout and finding meaningful work.
It's like Arkad was ahead of his time, seeing how important it is to find purpose in what you do.
Definitely. And he went even further. He also stressed that you need to constantly improve your skills, always be looking for ways to grow.
So it's not just finding the right job, it's about investing in yourself, your abilities, all the time.
Exactly. Arkad believed that knowledge and skills, those are like valuable assets. They increase in value over time.
It's like he's saying, don't just work for a living, work to become more valuable.
That's a great way to put it. He believed the more you learn and grow, the more you can earn, and that opens up new opportunities.
So it's a positive feedback loop. You learn more, earn more, invest more, and so on.
Exactly. Now let's tie this back to that idea of ensuring future income. Arkad knew that relying only on your active work was risky. What if you get sick or too old to work?
That's where creating those passive income streams comes in, right? Having assets that make money even when you're not working.
Right. Arkad believed that by diversifying your income, you create a safety net, like building multiple supports for your financial house.
I like that analogy. It makes me think about how many people depend on just one income source. If that goes away, their whole financial picture collapses.
It's a real concern. And that's why what Arkad said about building multiple income streams is so relevant now. It's about making your financial foundation stronger so it can handle unexpected problems.
Okay, so we've talked about saving, investing, managing debt, finding fulfilling work, ensuring future income, even the power of mindset. Is there anything else we can learn from Arkad?
Well, one thing that often gets overlooked is his emphasis on giving back to the community. He believed that true wealth wasn't just about what you accumulate personally, but about using your resources to make a positive impact.
Oh, so it's about understanding that wealth comes with a responsibility to contribute to the greater good.
Exactly. In the book, Arkad talks about supporting charities, investing in public works, helping those in need.
It's interesting how this idea of philanthropy ties back into that abundance mindset we talked about earlier. It's like by giving freely, you create a positive energy that ultimately benefits you too.
Exactly. And I think this is a really important message for the world today with all the social and environmental issues we're facing.
It's a reminder that financial success isn't just about personal gain. It's about using your resources to make a positive difference.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on, there's one more principle from the book I'd like to touch on. Mastering your desires.
Mastering your desires. Okay, tell me more.
Arkad talks about the dangers of uncontrolled desires. If you're always chasing the next shiny object or trying to keep up with everyone else, he says, you'll never be satisfied.
It's that whole comparison is the thief of joy thing, right?
Exactly. Arkad believed in being content with what you have while still striving for improvement. He said, you need to know the difference between needs and wants.
So it's about being mindful of your spending, not letting your desires dictate your financial choices.
Exactly. And that's where budgeting comes in. Arkad encouraged people to track their expenses, make conscious decisions about where their money's going.
So it's like he was all about intentional spending, not just mindlessly swiping your credit card.
Precisely. He believed that by being aware of your spending, you free up resources to save, invest, and reach your goals.
So it's not about deprivation. It's about making choices that align with your values and priorities.
Exactly. And this goes back to finding fulfilling work, too. When you're passionate about what you do, you're less likely to overspend trying to fill a void.
It's all connected.
It is. Now, imagine you could actually have a conversation with Arkad. What's one question you'd ask him about building wealth today?
That's a great question. I think I'd ask him how he'd handle the complexities of the modern financial world. So many investment options, all the technology, it's a lot more complicated than ancient Babylon.
That's a really interesting question. I wonder what he'd say about technology's role in building wealth. Would he embrace it as a tool or warn against its distractions and pitfalls?
I'm curious, too. I mean, technology makes it easier to get information, manage our finances, invest, but it also creates so much noise and distraction.
It's a double-edged sword, for sure. I think it would be fascinating to hear Arkad's perspective on finding that balance, using technology, but staying grounded in those timeless wealth-building principles.
Absolutely. I bet he'd have some wise insights to share.
So let's talk about how Arkad's principles apply to our lives and W. We've discussed a lot of theory, but how can our listener put these ideas into action?
Yeah, let's get practical. What are some concrete things people can do to start using Arkad's wisdom today?
First and foremost, revisit that principle of saving 10%. I know, it might sound tough, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck.
It's easy to say save 10%, but harder when you're just trying to get by.
Absolutely. That's why I suggest starting small, gradually increasing your savings over time. Even if you can only save 1% or 2% at first, it's a positive step.
It's about establishing the habit, proving to yourself you can do it.
Exactly. And remember, even small amounts saved consistently can grow a lot thanks to compound interest.
Like planting that tiny seed that turns into a big tree.
Precisely. Once you've got a savings habit, the next step is to look into investment opportunities.
Okay, but investing can be scary. Where do you even start?
That's where education and mentorship are so important. There are tons of resources to help you learn about investing. Books, podcasts, online courses, financial advisors.
So it's about taking the time to learn and finding trustworthy sources of information.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to seek advice from experienced investors or financial professionals. They can help you avoid costly mistakes.
It's like having a mentor on your wealth-building journey, just like Arkad did back in ancient Babylon.
Precisely. Another practical step, create a budget. I know it sounds boring, but it's essential for managing your money and making good spending choices.
Yeah, it's about knowing where your money goes
Mm.
and making sure it aligns with your goals and values.
Exactly. And there are great budgeting apps and tools now that make it easier to track expenses and see where you can save.
It's about taking control, making informed decisions, not just spending mindlessly.
Absolutely. Finally, I encourage you to remember Arkad's focus on finding work you love.
But how do you actually find work that matches your passions and purpose?
That's a journey that's different for everyone. Start by reflecting on your values, interests, and skills. What brings you joy? What are you good at? What kind of impact do you want to make?
It's about knowing yourself, what you really want out of life.
Exactly. Once you understand your passions, you can explore careers or business ideas that fit your vision.
It's like having a roadmap for your professional life, one that's guided by your own internal compass.
I love that. And it's okay to try different things until you find what feels right. Arkad's journey wasn't a straight line. It had twists and turns. Yours will too.
It's about enjoying the journey, trusting you'll find your way.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up our dive into The Richest Man in Babylon, I want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay, what wisdom do you have to share?
We've been talking about building wealth, but it's important to remember that true wealth is about more than money.
Oh, I like where this is going. Tell me more.
True wealth includes all parts of our lives: relationships, health, happiness, purpose.
It's about recognizing that money is just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Financial security is important, but it shouldn't come at the cost of our well-being in other areas.
Right. It's about balance, creating a life that's rich in all the things that matter.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes Arkad's story so powerful. It's not just about getting rich. It's about living a life of purpose and meaning, a fulfilling life.
It's about building a legacy that goes beyond just dollars and cents.
Precisely. And that's something we can all aim for no matter our financial situation. Hashtag TTS, the Deep Dive, episode 2025, ZO2-04, part 3 of 3.
So we're back, continuing our deep dive into The Richest Man in Babylon. It's amazing how relevant these ancient stories still are.
It really is. I think it's because, at the core, human nature hasn't changed that much. We still struggle with the same things when it comes to money, managing our desires, making good financial decisions, building a secure future.
Right, it's like those basic challenges are timeless no matter the culture or time period.
Exactly. And that's what makes Arkad's story so powerful. It speaks to those universal truths about wealth building.
And before we took a little break there, we were talking about how important it is to find fulfillment in your work, create a life that's rich in all the things that matter.
Right. That true wealth is about more than just money. It's about having well-being in your relationships, your health, happiness, your sense of purpose.
Exactly. Money is just one tool to help us create the life we want. It's not the end goal in itself.
That's such a key point. It's easy to get so caught up in chasing wealth that you lose sight of what truly matters.
It's like that saying, money can't buy happiness.
Exactly. Financial security can definitely reduce stress and give you more opportunities, but it doesn't automatically equal happiness or fulfillment.
So it's about finding that balance, right? Between going after financial well-being and also nurturing those other parts of our lives that bring us joy and meaning.
Absolutely. And I think Arkad's story gives us a really great framework for how to achieve that.
How so?
Well, he keeps coming back to the importance of living a virtuous life. He talks about honesty, integrity, hard work, compassion.
So it's not just about getting rich, it's about doing it in a way that's ethical, that matches your values.
Exactly. He believed that true success wasn't just about money, it was about living a life of purpose and integrity.
That's a great message for our listeners to take away from this. It's not just about getting rich, it's about building a life that you can be proud of.
Absolutely. Now, before we finish up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to think about.
Okay, I'm listening.
Throughout this deep dive, we've been exploring what Arkad called the 7 cures for a lean purse. We talked about saving, investing, managing debt, finding work you love, ensuring future income, and mastering your desires.
We've covered a lot.
We have. But I think the biggest takeaway is that building wealth is a journey. It's not a destination.
It's about constantly learning, growing, and adapting to the changes in the financial world.
Exactly. It's about taking those principles we've talked about and making them part of your ongoing financial journey.
And remember, it's never too late to start. Whether you're just beginning or you're already on your way, Arkad's wisdom can help guide and inspire you.
Absolutely. Go back and read The Richest Man in Babylon. See how you can use these ideas in your own life.
This has been such a great deep dive. I know our listeners are feeling ready to take charge of their financial futures.
I hope so. It's been great exploring these timeless principles with you.
It has. And for everyone listening, remember, the journey to financial success is a marathon, not a sprint. Be patient, be consistent, and never stop learning.
Well said. And as always, there's always more to learn and discover on the path to financial freedom.
That's right. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, keep growing, and keep diving deep into the world of ideas.
Until next time.
And happy wealth building, everyone.